Screens and tiny apartments, dating apps and hookup culture, meaningless jobs, and being in a rush. Does modern life have to be that way? Is there a different side to America? To find out, we went searching for the opposite. We went to see if cowboys still exist. Now, a spoiler. Cowboys are as real as they ever were. But in the process of learning that, we uncovered an even bigger story of how cowboys, caught between environmentalists and big business, have themselves become an endangered species. Our journey to uncover that started here at Rincon Blanco Cowboy Church in Cebolla, New Mexico. Ranchers from up to 50 miles away come down a dirt road to this nondescript building every Sunday to pray alongside fellow cowboys. This Sunday, the first thing they prayed for was snow, so they'd have water for their cows.
Father, we ask that you bring the much wanted moisture to our area.
Pastor Charlie, who founded the church, was born a cowboy and raised in a ghost town.
And that place there that you can see, that's the town of Elyria.
That out there?
Yeah.
That's a town.
That's a town. It's a ghost town now. That house there, to the left of the big blue hay barn, is where I was raised up. Didn't have a crossroads with the little. We moved into this house when I had just turned 4. And I would just take off and I'd just go for miles. Even as a 4-year-old, I guess my parents didn't worry about me because they knew I had to come home to get food, you know. Every summer I was kind of glad for school to start because I wouldn't see any kids at all for 3 months.
Today, he owns thousands of acres and grazes his cattle on an area larger than Manhattan. Charlie's day-to-day, like many cowboys, involves ensuring his cattle have water, moving them to new grazing land, and fighting sagebrush, a plant that grows like crazy and sucks out the little water there is, making it difficult for grass, cow's main food, to survive.
You begin to get big spaces in between the sagebrush that doesn't have any grass. It's more and more susceptible to mostly water erosion.
So you want as much grass as possible in here to hold the soil together.
And this Wyoming big sagebrush, it's taking all the moisture away. Grass that's in here, it's struggling somewhat. Caught.
What the?
And it there, and then it twisted the wire up.
So this is an elk leg.
That's an elk leg.
I mean, the beauty of it and the size of it, the land is just so...
Pretty immense, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
big country.
Do you worry that people like some billionaire is going to come in here and just try to buy up all the land?
All the time. Yeah. all the time. Yeah, all the time.
Now, a lot of this land is Charlie's, but a lot of it, even most of it perhaps, is not. It's federal land that he leases from the government. In the West, there's an ongoing battle between cowboys and the government over access to that land. In an upcoming video, we explore that in detail. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Charlie, meanwhile, says none of this land is his.
People ask, how many cattle do you own? God owns all the, it's here in scripture, God owns all the cattle and all the pastures and all the hills. He owns the cattle, but he's allowed me to be a steward of them, and I try to be the best steward that I can.
Charlie is one of the few white or Anglo cowboys out here. Most, like Max Martinez, are Hispanic and are descended from Conquistadors who settled this land in the 14 and 1500s. The Conquistadors came for 2 reasons: to hunt for gold and to spread Christianity.
We've been here since the 1400s. Came out here with the spade and with the cross.
Max comes from 8 generations of cowboys and has lived most of his life on this land. His family has been in this part of New Mexico since the 1400s, and today he ranches with his brothers.
Isn't this something?
This is just like looking at this, having been raised here, lived so much of your life here. Like, how do you see the world? What's your philosophy on life?
My philosophy is to stay here and live here till my dying, and to be buried and for my flesh to be mixed up with this soil.
Like Charlie, Max spends his days providing water for his cows, moving them, and taking care of the land. Despite centuries of ranching here, Max says 2 main things have put the lifestyle at risk. The first is conservation. The ranchers here need government land, and they say that environmentalists are trying to reduce their access to that land, typically in order to protect species like the wolf.
There's people in boardrooms across the United States right now plotting to remove public land ranchers off grazing lands and the cattle off the grazing lands because the wolf was there first. We sure don't deserve that. We've been here a long time. We've been here. We've gone along with the wolves for a lot of years. We had our problems with them, but now they're just going to force it down our throat, and it might kill our cattle industry. We're hanging on. We're barely hanging on.
The threat posed by this is real. In the past, an effort to protect an owl species decimated the economy and forced a huge number of ranchers to give up the practice. Perhaps even more of a threat than the environmentalists, though, is succession. Max has one daughter and has raised her in the culture, yet it's unclear if she'll take up the tradition or move to the cities like many of her peers.
Are young people coming back to a farm or ranch and run it and pick up and extend the generation of farming or ranching? Those are the problems that we're facing right now. So hopefully we'll see.
So your daughter raises hogs?
Yes.
Competitively?
Yes, That's her, Alexia is her name.
Wow.
She's 16.
With more young people moving away to cities, Max and the other Cowboys don't know what will happen when they're gone.
The most important thing to me is that somebody keeps it up after I do. I think that's the most important thing for me. That my daughter or my nephew or somebody takes up the mantle and goes on. I think to me that's the best thing that can happen.
20 miles away from Max, Sage and Shane are facing similar challenges.
Horses! There's already been a significant number of cattle producers that have gone out of business in the last 40 years. And I think we're going to continue to see that. A lot of farmers and ranchers will tell you they feel like they're under attack.
Their kids grew up on horses, spending their summers wrangling cattle through the mountains on horseback.
Wow, so this is the
So
horse.
this is a tack shed. This is where we keep our bridles and our saddles and our feed in the winter. We'll put that on the horse. There's saddle pads, there's headstalls, bits and bridles and all of that. There's not any one thing that you have to have. You have to have all of it, and it all needs to be functional. In our summer country, there's a few roads in there, but it's so thick and there's so much elevation that you have to do all of it horseback.
The kids later became rodeo stars and are now trying to pursue that professionally.
There's basketball teams, and then there's kids at high school and junior high rodeo.
Yet now the kids are in college and they're not around, and the business doesn't make enough money to hire staff. That means Sage and Shane now have a fraction as many cows as they once did.
There's just 12 mamas here, and there's about 30 calves.
Okay. That's in your whole flock right now.
Yeah.
So down from, you said at times you had 1,200.
Yeah. Yeah, we're way, way down. We've lost the kids as our biggest labor force. It's probably like anywhere else. Not everybody can do this job. And not everybody wants to do it, and then the pay side of it isn't always the best. The rewards a lot of times are, getting to be somewhere like here, which is wonderful, but it doesn't always pay the bills.
Labor isn't the only thing making cattle farming harder. Cattle farming is becoming increasingly corporate and regulated, making it difficult for small farms like these ones to survive.
There's a whole bunch of small cow-calf guys. There's a ton of us. And then there's a few guys that own feed yards. And so they start buying those calves. And then there's only 4 packers, the big packers. And so they really dictate the price.
In the whole country?
In the whole country, yeah. Absolutely. And now, used to, I think everybody had an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent that had a farm. Mm-hmm. And we don't have that anymore. I also feel like, we talked a little bit about the big processors. The corporatization of agriculture is a challenge for us. We do everything here, and if you've got a corporate entity, then they can hire somebody to do those kind of things and run farms. And so I think sometimes that corporate model is easier, but then you lose the kids growing up in an environment like this, and you lose the family connection.
When you talk about regulations, like what kind of regulations are you subject to?
If you move cattle, you have to get inspections. If you, all those kind of things. And there used to be a really protective federal act called the Packers and Stockyards Act, and that was basically to break up that oligarchy in agriculture, and so that we didn't have just a few processors, and that's kind of gone by the wayside. It's still there, but nobody even knows those laws or really applies them anymore. That helped producers. So
when and why did that change?
Again, I think that corporatization. I think I'm so busy here on the farm that I don't go and lobby on my behalf. And so there's not a lot of voice out there saying, hey, take care of our farmers and ranchers. And the flip side of that is the folks that live in the city maybe they are lobbying more, maybe, you know, those special interest groups and those kind of things. And so, you know, politics and politicians are kind of the bad guys for farmers and ranchers in a lot of ways. They tend to represent the 99 and not the 1.5.
Yeah.
And just lots to think about, but for us, you know, we've got to feed cows today. And so that's what we do.
On the one hand, Sage and Shane reminded us that this is a business of raising cattle and selling them so we can have beef. On the other hand, though, all the cowboys made clear that being a cowboy is about much more than cattle.
You know, being a cowboy, what does that mean?
It means, to me, it means taking care of your livestock, taking care of your land, taking care of your family, being a good Christian, and being a good person.
My whole life I've dreamed of being a cowboy, and one of these days I want to make it.
What is it to be a cowboy?
To me, it means you put the livestock and the land and your family all in front of yourself. To be a cowboy is to be a part of something really special.
Sandwiched between environmentalists, corporate interests, urbanization, and billionaires, being a cowboy has never been harder. Yet the tradition undeniably remains alive, with ranchers like Charlie, Sage, Shane, and Max rising with the sun and spending their lives taking care of their land. So do cowboys still exist? Absolutely. And that means that modern life doesn't need to be as bland as it seems. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. We have another video coming up after this about the battle between ranchers and the government. If you like this, you will love that. Make sure you don't miss it.